Southern Utah, Thunderbirds.
Welcome into episode 7 of the Storm the Sky podcast. Thanks for being with us today. We want to thank our presenting sponsor here on the Storm the Sky podcast, Best Western. Thunderbird fans, if you're traveling in from out of town, be sure to book your next stay at Best Western Plus or Best Western Town and Country Inn. Both are conveniently located only a few blocks from campus and offer a 20% SUU discount. That's Best Western and Best Western Plus, proud presenting sponsor of the Storm the Sky podcast. Episode 7 coming up. We've got a great interview with the longest tenured head coach in the history of Thunderbird Athletics, Coach Houle. Talks about all things from his beginnings here at Southern Utah as a student athlete, student body president, his high school career, and then taking over a D1 cross country and track and field program and taking it to new heights. So I hope you enjoy this interview. Coming up, Coach Houle here on the Storm the Sky podcast. Welcome into the Storm the Sky podcast here on SUTBirds.com. Thanks for being here with us this week. We've got a special guest for you, Southern Utah track and field and cross country coach Eric Houle. Coach, thanks for taking some time with us here today and stopping in.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to talk with you. Longest tenured head coach in the history of SU athletics. That's not a title that anyone should really take lightly. I mean, you've been around this place to really see it grow. So I'm excited to get your perspective on all that. I kind of want to start with you, Coach. You were a student here at SUU, and that's kind of where I'd like to start. I would love to hear what your first impressions of Southern Utah were. Kind of when you first got here.
Yeah, well, I received an athletic and leadership scholarship out of high school to Southern Utah, and there were a couple other schools in the state, but I really looked closely at Southern Utah, one, because my brother was here, and I'm dating myself, but in 1975, they ran the high school state championship here at Southern Utah on that track, and I won the state championship in the 2 mile at the time. And Steve Lund approached me, and we talked, and that was my first initial experience with Southern Utah. So obviously, when you achieve something at a place, it kind of leaves a warm spot in your heart, and so then with my brother being here, it was and being offered some money to come here, it was an easy choice for me. Once I got here, and I was on the obviously the cross country and the track team, and it was really a lot of fun. It was great to move to the college level and work under some good people and to work with some fine athletes that they had here at the time. But we were a young team, and we were in a very tough conference, the RMAC. And I've said this before. My first experience was. I think it was Alamosa, Colorado that we went to, and one side of me lined up was Adams State, who was in our conference, and the other one was UTEP. And back in that time, the only teams that won the national title was Adams State in the D2, I think, and then UTEP in the Division I. And I didn't know that at the time, but I sure learned it fast. So it was an eye opener. At the time. And so, but on the athletic side, it was great. And once I received a little experience here at Southern Utah, and I got my feet under me. Obviously, I ran for student body president, and that was a great experience too. So I think the athletic with the academics and the, the student government leadership stuff really prepared me, for the next arena in my life. And so it was really an awesome experience.
What age did you start running competitively?
I remember as an 8th grader, my brother would go out running with some of the teachers in the school, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I'd go out running with them and train. And then the coach at the track team said, "Hey, we have a junior high meet at BYU." And so they loaded up everybody, and a lot of junior highs used to attend it. And I remember going to the meet, and it was a big deal at that time if you could break 5 minutes in the mile. And so I got into the race there at BYU, and I think I ran 5:06, and and everybody was excited because I would have been like the number 2 guy on the team at the high school in the mile. And so then the coach started inviting me out as an 8th grader to run in the high school meets. And so pretty much as an 8th grader is when I really started competing.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Pallet Bakery. Pallet Bakery here in Cedar City is a proud sponsor of SU Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Pallet Bakery and Ice Cream Parlor offers special promotions to SU students and staff. Just show your school ID for buy one, get one half off deals. Pallet Bakery is located at 255 North Main Street, across from Main Street Park. Once again, Pallet Bakery, proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. What were, you mentioned the lining up against the 2 best teams in the country, but what were some of your most memorable moments as a student athlete here?
I think lining up there, obviously. I think, seeing how the athletes developed through the years, in particular meets, was just the overall experience. I remember one particular, you make such great friends, whether it's in the classroom, or no matter what extracurricular activity you're involved in. But I remember meeting a lot of really cool guys. One young man, at the time with me, we were both training for the 800 meters, and he was just a solid guy. And so, and then some of the sprinters that I met and stuff, I think the overall experience, there's not one meet that really stands out to me, but I think the individuals, the opportunity to run for a college at that time, and then the experience going up against some great competition. So I think the overall experience is really what I remember the most. I don't remember one particular meet or one particular race that much. I do remember they did run the conference championship because they were redoing the track here. I think it was in 79. And so they held the conference championship down in St. George at the Dixie College. And I fared really well there. I remember that being a great experience. And so the overall experience was really cool. It's one I would definitely do again if I could.
When you graduate from Southern Utah, you get your degree, you move on, you go and start Judge Memorial High School in Salt Lake City, Utah. Tell me a little bit about that experience, working at the high school level and coaching at the high school level.
Well, I think I might have said this before, but a little history on that. When you graduated, I graduated in 81 here, but at that time, interest rates were at 17%. Jobs were hard to get, and buying homes were just really impossible. So I got, I applied for 2 different jobs, that I thought, I want to be at a very good track school, and so I'm going to apply for some jobs here. And the one job I didn't get, but the other job, Judge Memorial, I got, but I had to be the drama teacher. So I think because I graduated from Southern Utah, they thought everybody could teach drama. And I'd never been on stage, and I'd never, acted, but apparently the interview, I must have put on a pretty good act because they hired me as the drama teacher. And I need to apologize to all those students that I had in those 2 years. But I did put on 2 plays, Music Man and Hello Dolly, and some plays and stuff like that. And it really ended up, for me, it ended up being a wonderful experience, not so much probably for the students, but it really set this tone with everything that I experienced at the high school and the college level in terms of the formative years, and then be launched into, literature and drama, really set the stage for me to understand what you put into something that you really love and you're passionate about. You're only going to achieve what you put in, so if you really want to be successful in a arena, in whatever arena you choose, you've got to be prepared to work. You got to be prepared. And I think that's what I took in the Judge. But then after 2 years, they moved me out of drama into English. And then I became the coach there, and in the cross country coach there. And I remember it was so exciting, to now be the coach, and I had to pay my dues, and I did, and so I spent 8 years as the cross country assistant track coach, and it was a wonderful experience. One of my athletes was running down here at Southern Utah, and I think it was on spring break, came to my office, a judge, and said, "Hey, the Southern Utah job's opening up," and so I applied for it, and fortunately, I haven't looked back.
Over 25 years at the same institution, and in modern college athletics, that's a feat amongst itself. But when you look back, take me back to your first year as a head coach, kind of going through the growing pains of transitioning from high school coach to Division I coach at the time, right? By that time, Southern Utah would have transitioned to Division I cross country track and field coach. What was that transition like? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember first getting the job and thought I had died and gone to heaven. And as I look back on it now, oh my gosh, it was good that it was great that I was young, because you needed a lot of energy, and the administration, the department was just getting their feet under themselves, because we were just Division I. And so, it was as organized as it could be. And I remember being overwhelmed by all the things that had to be done, we had to do to get ready for competition. But, meeting the team for the first time, seeing what kind of level of athlete we had at the time, meeting the track team, because I was the only coach. I actually coached the jumps, the throws, the sprints, the distance races. And so it was quite a load. And I remember, and then I'd have to go in, and back in those days, we had to actually use phones that were attached to walls. And so I had to go in and recruit from the office. So it was a lot of time I spent, but it was a good thing that I was appreciative of the opportunity. I was excited to be, the coach here at Southern Utah, but it definitely took a lot of work, to first develop the athletes, to try to get the attention of some of the athletes within the state, to up the level of the recruiting, and at the same time to be patient with these athletes as they were patient with me. And it just seems like with every year, we got a little bit better. I was able to bring on a couple coaches, which helped a lot, got a little bit better. We started being real competitive, obviously, at the conference level. And I think, those first few years were really just a blessing for me. And it was really an awesome experience. And everybody was on board to try to make a better program, the athletic department, along with the athletes, and along, with, the things that I did. So it was some trying times, because we got beat up quite a bit. I remember my first cross country meet, I think we were at Salt Lake Golf Course, and it was the regional championship. I show up with my team, and I think we did dead last in the region. And I remember some of the kids, it just seemed like some of the schools were laughing at us a little. And so it was kind of rough, but that quickly changed. The kids, athletes did a really good job and brought more respect to the program.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about BULLOCH Drug. BULLOCH Drug is a proud sponsor of Southern Utah University Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. BULLOCH Drug is located in downtown Cedar City, and Township Pharmacy is located right near the hospital just off North Main in Cedar City. All your prescription needs and much more can be cared for at both locations. That's BULLOCH Drug and Township Pharmacy, proud supporters of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. This is one of my favorite events to talk to you about. You talk about success started rolling in a little bit. In 1999, the men's cross country team goes to the NCAA regionals, the mountain regionals, and wins it, knocks off the number one team in the country. We just inducted that team into the Hall of Fame, so it was really cool last year, being able to hear that story from all of those guys. But I'd love for you to tell this story to everyone, just that 1999 men's cross country team, and what a feat it was. And, it's not called the Miracle in the Mountains for nothing.
Yeah, there are coaches around the country still to this day that's what they coined that, that's what happened that day. And we had made some moves, and we had a chance to qualify nationally. That would have been the first time we would have ever qualified for the nationals. And we knew we had a shot. We had to finish in the top 5, we figured. And so when you look back, the first year that I was here in '92, and we're dead last, and then in '99, we shocked the country in this sport to win that sucker. And I remember, I think I said, I remember when the guys took off and we were leading the race, some of the coaches around the region would say, slow down, don't worry about them. They're going to come back to you, with a half mile to go. Oh my gosh, pick it up. They're going to win this thing. And it really is one of those stories that they make movies about, that here's a team, against all odds. I think at the time, maybe the smallest team, in the region, and the newest team, Division I in the region, within 7 short years, we knock off a number of powerhouses in the country. And it really, really at that point set the tone of the program and the respect for the program around the country. And it's a glorious experience. And it's one that I sometimes think about, that how on earth did this happen? And but it happened because hard work on everybody's part, dreaming big. I always say you have to first dream and then start talking about it. And that's what these guys are. And they went on to be obviously successful teachers and doctors. And so it's a testimony to the kind of guys that I was blessed to be able to coach for that short time.
Speaking of, the continued success, what do you remember about Cam Levins the first time you met him?
I remember his hair. It was kind of bushy, and he was just a real respectful, a guy that showed a lot of respect, and his talk and how he conducted himself was, real professional and a gentleman. And so, it was a joy to have him around and to start training him. And boy, but once those first few practices, I could tell this guy was on fire. I mean, he wasn't here just to cash a check. He was here to accomplish something. And so, but I remember some of those practices, him as a freshman, to be able to think what this relationship and this development was going to be like is incredible to think about, and that he, that work ethic and that desire to follow the system and work within the program and listen to the things you had to do. And he bought into that stuff and it paid off. But I remember him the first couple of workouts, he just was a hard worker and very respectful and a nice young man to be around.
At what point in his career did you really sit back and go, oh, he's going to do major things here?
They still have the video. I think it's online when he broke 4 minutes in the mile at UW indoors. I mean, that was our first sub 4 minute miler. And that's kind of the benchmark in distance running too. For programs, how many sub 4 minute milers have you coached, and once he did that launched him, onto the national stage where he was going to be competitive indoors. But I remember, going to the indoor meet, that national championship, he struggled a little, but it set the stage for him, to be able to experience what it is like at the national level. And so with each pass and meet at that time, it just got strong. He just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And with each experience in racing, helped develop him, as a national, caliber athlete. Did I think he was going to go as far as he did? Had no clue. But I knew he was going to be an impact player on the national stage. At that point, at that UW meeting, I remember sitting in a restaurant that night that it happened. And I'm texting people, I'm sending emails out to everybody that this is just what happened. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is crazy. To experience a sub 4 minute miler was awesome. And his reputation exploded throughout the country at that moment too.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design. Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design Center is the premier flooring provider in southern Utah. Stop in to see their Cedar City store located on Sage Drive to find amazing prices, unique design options, and incredible service for all your flooring needs. That's Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design, a proud supporter of Southern Utah University Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Now, back to the show. Obviously, Cam goes on to win the Bowerman, wins multiple national championships, goes to compete in the Olympics, represents Team Canada. As a coach, what were the feelings like watching an athlete you had coached through their collegiate career compete at the highest level at the Olympics for their country?
Yeah, I tell my athletes, I told them just the other day that, I go back to you got to dream. A lot of people are afraid sometimes. People are afraid to dream because they're afraid to fail, or that it won't work out. But I tell them, you got to dream, you got to start talking about it. And I remember when I graduated from high school, because I won a couple state championships in my yearbook, the people the students would say, you're going to be in the 1980 Olympic Games. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of interesting. That might be something to think about. But I remember after that first meet in Alamosa, it was going to be a tough road for me as an athlete, to get to the Olympic Games. But I was engaged in my classes. I was engaged in the track program, the cross country program here. I wanted to be the very best coach, that I could be, whether I get to the Olympics or not. And then to watch Cam come out of the stadium and then say, oh my gosh, dreams do come true, because I'm not an athlete in the Olympic Games, but I'm a coach in the Olympic Games. And so to see him come out, and it's just like my whole life slowed down. It was like that whole moment, was in slow motion. And to see that, the planning on all of our parts, from the support you get from the administration to the day-to-day workouts, to the day-to-day discussions, to those long road trips and talking about possibilities and those races, those cool races that took place. I mean, it just is a testimony to what all the athletes, their desire, their hopes, what they want to achieve. It's a testimony to big dreams. It's a testimony to hard work. It's a testimony to working together, that we're all in this game together. And so, yeah, and to watch them announce, him as he stepped forward, and I mean, it was pretty cool. And remember, he was only like, and I think the 10,000, I could be wrong, but I think it was like only 9 seconds out of the gold medal. I mean, the fastest 10,000 in the history on the planet Earth. We had a Southern Utah guy in there. And then in the 5,000, he was part of the fastest 5,000 ever run in the history of the Olympic Games. And that catapulted him into the finals of the 5,000. And so it was just unreal. I mean, it was just an unreal experience, and I'm just fortunate that I was able to experience it that level, that high, at least one time in my career.
At this point in your career, you've got cross country teams that are perennially, ranked in the top 25. The men's track team was hitting that mark a couple of years back, winning conference championships in the Big Sky, obviously, and prior leagues won more conference championships than a lot of people could even keep track of. Just kind of when you look back at your career here, Coach, obviously you've still got a lot of it left, but when you look back at your career here, is there anything you can pinpoint to those early years where you can go, this is where I felt like, things really started, and I started making a difference, and this was our launching point?
Yeah, I think after 2 years here, and the athletes seem to be buying into the system. I think we were in New York, Buffalo, New York was in the conference, and that's where the conference championship in cross country was held. And we won that championship, and the excitement with the athletes, and the females, I think, finished second. And so it meant that what we were doing was working. And I think that was the university's first ever conference championship in that sport. And so to win that conference title and to know that this is unique for us here at Southern Utah to win that conference championship in the sport, was definitely a starting point where it was easier to recruit some people. And then it launched us in, like you mentioned earlier, in that 99 season. and that really changed everything. We still had some ups and downs, and we're all in with this university. I mean, you can build a powerhouse, but you're going to grow. You're going to be invested in the athletes you pick, and so you're going to ride them out for the years they're with you. And sometimes it works out perfect, and you win conference titles, and other times you have years where you struggle a little. But if you keep doing the right things, you rise fast. You get right back to that spot, and you're contending for a conference title. And so I think that one in Buffalo, the '99 team was really, the Hawaii trip with the young ladies, to go to Hawaii and win that meet was huge for the ladies. I think, those are two big events that I think really helped us.
Talk to me a little bit about competing in the Big Sky Conference and, having what has seemed to be the perennial national champion in cross country, right across the doorstep from you. And, how much have you seen, that level of competition and going up against that team year after year really push your guys and the women's team to really new heights that you guys have been reaching?
Yeah, fortunately, we had those years before we moved into the Big Sky to develop, that mental attitude, that ability to focus on what you can do and not on who you're racing. And I think you were with us in the 2018 season at that conference championship. And I remember in the meeting, the little talk I give prior to these meets, I told them, the only way we're going to win this conference championship is if NAU doesn't show up for the bus, because I believe it, and that goes to my philosophy. I am not going to get my athletes all psyched up to win something that I know is impossible to win, or at least I felt was impossible. And track is really easy to gauge that, because if you have guys that are running 10.4 in the 100, and you in the conference, and your guys are running 11.4, it doesn't matter. 11 seconds and 11.4 seconds. It doesn't matter the pep talk you give. Their chances are they're not going to catch the 10.4s unless they don't show up for the bus. Now, we were a lot better than that. We were competitive, and we had a shot to definitely get second. But I wanted the athletes, and I've always done this, just like in the '99 season, just like all those other conference championships. Focus on what you can do. Focus on your job. And if you can focus on your job and not worry about what everybody else is doing, good things are going to happen, because now it's on them. They have to be able to perform like they're predicted to perform. And so we keep doing what we do right, we're going to be competitive. And midway, with I think 4 events left, when we could check the score and a couple of things happened, a chill came down my back and down a lot of other people, thinking, oh my gosh, we have followed through with the things that we can do, and we've been successful, and we just might win this thing. And it just kept snowballing and snowballing, and to win by 0.22 of a point shows a great effort on both NAU's and our part. And so I think it was an awesome experience. And what it also did is, along with the other things we've done in the Big Sky in track and field and cross country, is a testimony to that we moved, that the conference we left was a good conference too, because then we moved into the Big Sky, and we were just as competitive in the Big Sky, but we were, stopped, to winning some of those conference championships, because unfortunately and fortunately, we're up against the national champs.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's is a proud supporter of Southern Utah Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Get freaky fast sandwiches today by ordering online or with the app for freaky fast delivery, or you can visit them right here in Cedar City at 1001 West, 200 North. That's Jimmy John's, proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. How did coaching become such a family business for the Houles?
My mom was always, and my dad was always pushing us into service. We had to do service. And so in the summer times, we had to volunteer at, the Camp Christopolis in Salt Lake City up Immigration Canyon. That's for handicap. We had to volunteer for the Olympics, Special Olympics to volunteer as coaches and stuff. And I remember starting with the Special Olympics and coaching these kids and coaching those kids. And it was really, really enjoyable. And it was an eye opener. And it was really interesting to me. I'm coaching, young kids that are 7 years old and 55-year-old guys. And I could feel, and my brothers could feel, hey, this is kind of fun to see and watch improvement. This is like, you can actually see your impact that you have. And I think that's where it started. And I think with my brother going into coaching and my brothers going into coaching, and them coaching teams and stuff, it just seemed to be a love of something, and to me, when I started coaching, I didn't care what the salary was. I just wanted to coach. And I think through the service that my parents made us do, and in the Special Olympics and experiencing that, I think that's where it really started. That's where it got a hold of all of us. And it's been a glorious career for all of us.
How crazy has it been to watch how much the campus has changed and the Southern Utah University, brand has changed since the time you were here to now?
Oh yeah, that's been crazy to see, because I remember where I'm sitting right now in my office above the stadium, or right where the gymnastics building and the academic center is. This is all farmland, and I think it was owned by somebody else. It was owned by someone else, because there was a house here. And then across the street from the stadium, was all just wild fields. And so when you were out on this road, it was like you were in the middle of nowhere. And I remember sitting on it's now called the President's Council, because as student body president, you sit on that. And I remember them bringing out the blueprints or the plans for the future. And they said, the whole campus is going to move this direction. And I thought to myself, what, really? They said, most of the population will come from this direction. This is where we're going to put a new student center. This is where we're going to have some fields. This is where we're going to put a new library, and I thought, wow, this is going to be crazy. I won't be alive to see this. And to see this all change, even when I came here as a coach at 10 years out of Southern Utah, I mean, to see the change from the library to the student center to the changes in the stadium, I mean, it's been really quite amazing. So when they say that these are the plans for the future, they're going to happen, So it's been really awesome to see the change and the change within the community. It's been pretty cool to see.
What are the conversations like now you have with athletes that you coached early on in your career? Like what are those conversations like, and how much do you enjoy, being able to keep up with what all these athletes you've had an impression on do in their lives?
I mean, to me, it's inspiring to me, in that I realize no matter what arena you're in, what arena you choose to be in, no matter who you are, you can have an impact on people by the things you say and the way you try to conduct yourself. And so, to have some athletes that have dropped me emails, especially, once we started winning some conference championships, and the 99 team, the Olympic Games, the women qualifying for the national championship, and the men, finishing 11th in the country, to hear from these athletes and, just like blown away by where we are, especially those first few years of athletes. And then I've had a couple come in before and sat down in my office, and they were just staring at me. I said, hey, it's so nice to see you. And they said, Coach, I just want to apologize. One, I can't believe how this program has developed. And two, I'm sorry that I was a punk. I'm sorry that I missed practices and I did this. And to me, it was just part of the game. You had to work with them and try to inspire them. But it is a privilege to hear, that you made an impact on someone's life. But I'm not foolish, that there are people that I'm sure might not like what I said or did, and you can't make friends all along. I mean, you're going to have some people that aren't happy with the direction, you took the program at the time, and, but the vast majority are appreciative and happy to see where the program's at. I mean, the fact is we're competing against BYU, we're competing against, Arkansas, we're competing against Texas, we're competing against the vast majority of the big Power 5 conferences. I mean, that is huge. And to be lucky enough to be a part of that has been a blessing for all of us involved.
Got one more question for you, and then I'll let you get back to your work day. What would Eric Houle, the coach, go back and tell Eric Houle, the student athlete?
No matter the up and downs you're going to face, stick to the dream and enjoy life because it is fleeting.
That's awesome. Perfect. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's always good to catch up with you. I'm sure we'll have you back on before too long. So.
Yep. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
You bet.
Thanks again to Eric Houle for dropping by here with us on the Storm the Sky podcast. And thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Best Western. Thunderbird fans, if you're traveling in from out of town, be sure to book your stay at Best Western Plus or Best Western Town and Country Inn. Both are conveniently located only a few blocks from campus and offer a 20% off SU discount. That's Best Western Plus or Best Western Town and Country, proud supporters of the Storm the Sky podcast. That'll bring us to the close of episode 7 here. We will see you next week for episode 8. Until then, take it easy.